As we are waiting for Admiral Sir and R.K. Sharma Sir, I think they will catch up soon. And as we are already running short of time, we'll begin the webinar for today. So today we have all gathered up for this very important day to commemorate the day of World First Aid Day of this year, which was on 10th. And we are having this webinar on 12th on the topic promoting a lifelong first aid learning. We have been joined by an eminent set of panelists, starting from Rear Admiral PD Sharma sir, who is the founder president of Rashtriya Life Saving Society. I'll just like to give a big brief intro of Admiral sir. Uh, he has steered the Rashtriya Life Saving Society with commitment during the last 20 years to its current status of being a branch of Royal Life Saving Society, and is also a full member of International Life Saving Federation, where he held the position of vice president and president of ILS Asia Pacific region from 2012 to 2016. After staff tenures at the Naval Headquarters and the Directorate General NCC in flag rank, he took premature retirement in 1993, and as a naval aviator, he commanded ships and establishment, including INAS 300, the premier fighter squadron of the Indian Navy. He is an invited speaker and conducts training workshops and seminars in safer living, community education, in first aid and life saving and safety. So we'd like to welcome Admiral Sir to this session today. Next up, Dr. Rajnikant Sharma is there with us, who is a master trainer and examiner of Indian Red Cross Society Delhi. He initiated his stint with Indian Red Cross as a member of Youth Red Cross in 1988, and later he was assigned as a team member in the Lathar earthquake in 1990, and further designated as lecturer for first aid and allied subjects in 2004. And currently, he is designated at the top management of the Delhi branch of IRCS as a master trainer, senior lecturer, and examiner. He's also serving as a nodal officer, DM on state level, and has been an active part of government since 2006. He has written a handbook in first aid techniques in 2013 for students enrolled in the capital of India. He has been awarded with maximum number of trainings and examinations conducted by Master Trainer Delhi Branch Chief Coordinator in COVID-19 for awareness in public food distribution, etc. Welcome, Dr. Sharma. We also have Dr. Rashmi Malhotra, who is the first aid lecturer, master trainer from Indian Red Cross Society. She has more than a decade-long experience in working as medical officer in gynae department of Red Cross hospitals and 5 years experience in imparting first aid training. Recently, she has provided the online training to approx 120 members over India of Registrar Generals and Census Commissioner India from the Ministry of Home Affairs, and also conducted a training to Airport Authority of India. Welcome, Dr. Rashmi. We have Ms. Kavita Sharma with us, who is the Senior Vice President of Rashtriya Life Saving Society India. She also leads the swimming and life-saving training centers of RLSS as a director there. She has introduced the world's largest swim lesson in India in collaboration with the World Water Park Association. This exercise has been well received by many pools in schools and clubs in India, and the event has entered even the Guinness Book of World Records. She has also actively participated in the Royal Life Saving Society's 125th year celebration festives as a commissioner member. During her initial career, she began setting up swimming and life-saving training centers to empower people with life-saving skills, training first aiders, lifesavers, lifeguards, beside coaching people to swim, and introduce children to swim and survive program, which she promotes in the country as a drowning prevention initiative. Welcome, Kavita ma'am. We also have Dr. Rita Savla, who is a medical doctor by profession and also a founder director for Radhi Disaster and Education Foundation. Dr. Rita have a good medical practice she was having a good medical practice was satisfying, but due to personal and patient experience, she started promoting the concept of right help, early help, and the importance of life-saving first aid skills. She started Radhi Disaster and Education Foundation to reduce the aftermath of disaster, health emergencies, and accidents through advocacy, planning, and training. Radhi is a pioneer in bringing change in the country's golden hour trauma management field. She's a trainer in first aid, psychological first aid, disaster management, and fire safety. Thank you for joining us. Welcome you. Last but not the least, we have the moderator, Dr. Itindra Singh Bali with
Good
us.
afternoon. This is Purushottam Sharma. We are having a
Hi, sir. Good afternoon. We already did your introduction, but however, we'll once again like to welcome you.
Hello.
So we just introduce the moderator, Dr. Bali, who is by profession a dentist based out of Kashmir. However, his heart lies in the Indian Red Cross Society of the national headquarters, Delhi, as a national master trainer. He is also a trainer with Red Heart from the last 14 years and has done training in almost all parts of the country. Apart from that, he is a master trainer with UNFPA on reproductive health in emergencies and many other national international organizations in different parts of the country. Thank you, Dr. Bali, for accepting our invite and being throughout support for organizing this webinar and being there with us. Thank you so much, Dr. Bali. And with this, we'll like to hand it over to you to moderate the session. And first of all, setting a context for the day by giving us an understanding of what is the basic first aid and what are the general principles and components involved in it, and further taking us through the entire discussion. Over to you, Dr. Bali. Sir, आप म्यूट पे अभी तो.
Okay. Thank you, Sijo. Thank you very much. And very good afternoon to all of you. And all the very senior trainers are present in this panel. And we are glad to have this session with all of you. We start with Mr. Real Admiral Mr. P.D. Sharma. We are very proud that you have been associated with this session. Sir, you know, this is the first aid day. We are celebrating the first aid day. So we have this questionnaire. We're starting for this. So, sir, first question, can I ask you, what about the safety on the land and life saving in the water are the two issues which are sadly neglected in our country? Would you like to comment on it? What is this, sir?
Firstly, namaskar, everybody. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to share my thoughts on first aid, life saving, lifeguarding, etc. I've been in it for the past 24 and a half years. And I don't claim to know much, but I should say that I'm a student of the subject. And I'm a little concerned about the fact that we do something like 500,000 lives in the country to both drowning and accidents on land. And the only way I thought that one can control or arrest the number of deaths that occur this way is to create a huge bank of lifesavers and first aiders who know exactly what to do in case a person is in distress or in trouble, either on land or in water. And consequently, with that effort, I've been moving around and training people for the past 24 years. You'll be happy to know that I've trained about 1 million resuscitators or CPR and almost 500,000 people in life-saving, first aid, etc. The aim of the exercise is loud and clear that no matter where an accident or person is troubled in water, there should be somebody around who knows what to do. We as a people in India are very compassionate. We want to help. But the trouble is that most of us do not try and learn how to help. And that's important because we're dealing with subjects of life and death. And unless you do the right thing, you can end up by actually killing a person rather than saving him. And consequently, this is important, whether you're on land or in water. The attitude of a person to help a person in distress remains the same. It's the methodology. As far as the first aid is concerned, the guy is on land and you know what to do. The system is DRABC and you go ahead and danger, remove danger, check for response, check for airway clear. That's the CPR protocol. That's the beginning. And thereafter you do a body check. And once the body check is done, then you find out exactly where your attention is needed to rectify situation. Aim basically is to stabilize the person and reach him to professional medical help as quickly as possible. That is as far as the land situation is concerned. As far as the water is concerned, he must know how to swim, and he must know how to reach out to the victim mentally and physically, reach out to him as quickly as possible, grab him, and safely bring him ashore, and thereafter is plain simple first aid. Usually we will start with CPR so that he recovers his oxygen content in the blood and he doesn't deteriorate any further. So these are the issues as far as the land and water are concerned. Both have to be taken concurrently, and you don't know where it's going to happen, but you should be prepared to deal with it. These people who know both, they are called lifesavers, or shall we say, first responders. The others are first aiders, and as far as the water is concerned, they are called lifesavers. So aim is to create a huge bank of these guys so that we can deal with the situation that exists in the ground. That is, people do not take care of themselves. They do not how to recognize danger. Leaving aside the question of averting danger, but the point is they must know that can be dangerous. Water is beautiful, attractive, full of fun, everything, but it can also be dangerous. And once you realize that it can be dangerous, then you have to be cautious enough. You know what how to be cautious about entering in water. You must know the depth, and then gradually go into the sphere before you actually begin to like it. That's as far as the first question of yours is concerned. Thank you very much. Hello, can you hear me?
Thank you so much, Admiral sir. I think Dr. Bali just dropped out. Wait for him for a second. See if he's around.
No, he was very much there. I watched him.
He was there. Yeah. He was
I don't
there.
know, something is happening that his computers. My computer is gone completely. But I mean, I've had zillions of Zoom meetings on it, and today when I open it, it's going round and round. It's crazy. Anyway, that's computer for you. The more you rely on this, okay.
So even my camera was messed up. I just fixed it.
Yeah. Okay.
I think while he's joining, I'll take up his role for now. Thank you very much, Dr. Admiral sir, for inspiring us with your words, and we are really glad to hear how you got into this sector and the understanding the need for the safety on land and life saving in water. And with this, I think while we talk about the physical things, it is actually equally important to talk about the psychological aspects as well. And who else can be better than Dr. Rita Savla, who is there with us, who we'd like to hear from you, ma'am, what exactly is this term PFA, which is a very trending topic these days, and what is the PFA, that is psychological first aid, and how can we address issues pertaining to mental health distress during disasters through psychological first aid? If you could elaborate on this. Over to you, ma'am. Ma'am, you are on mute.
Sorry, my network got disconnected.
It's okay, sir. I just took a little privilege of doing the moderation. You can take it up.
I'm sorry for that.
Thank you. So I've already posted the question to Dr. Rita, and here on. Oh. Yes, Rita ma'am, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Very good afternoon, everybody. PFA, psychological first aid. We have hardly give importance to the psychological aspect during any trauma, whether it is a disaster or accident or any personal emergencies. I'll start with one example, which yesterday only I had. Yesterday, last weekend, I was spending my time with my friends in the tribal area of the outskirts of Mumbai. We were going to the field, and then there was a scorpio bite to one of our core team member. And looking at the scorpio bite, he was so scared. I was little, almost 6 to 7 feet behind him. And the way he was panicking. Then he suddenly said, okay, I have a doctor with me. One psychological support, what he got it. And then when I went and showed, okay, what is going on? I said, don't worry, it's just nothing to worry. I saw the scorpio. I said, nothing to worry. It's not a poisonous scorpio. It is just a small bite. Don't worry, and we'll do the first aid for you. He immediately said, like, last 3 months, 4 months back, we had been with other friend and we had a snake bite. And we lost that person when we found out that person was bitten by a non-poisonous snake. You can understand only a snake bite, that fear, stress, and shock made a person to die. But if there was somebody around and the knowledge would have just said, don't worry, nothing will happen to you. This is a simple psychological impact. And the simple few words, when you're seeing a road accident or you're seeing anybody into the distress, you just touch your hand or touch the shoulder and just give a reassurance. We are there for you. We'll help you. Don't worry. We know. We won't leave you. This simple word is a psychological first aid. Of course, when we talk about the detail of psychological first aid, we have to address it. Hello.
Yes, ma'am. Sorry for that.
So more of the goal of the psychological first aid is how we can reduce the trauma and psychological trauma. When I'm talking about the trauma, if the person has hurt and he knows that, there is somebody with me around, and then when you're in fear, when we are fear, stress, you really have a reduced immunity, which impacts the improvement. So safety, calmness and comfort, connectedness, empowerment and hope are the 4 goals of the psychological first aid. Our vision should be on the psychological first aid, addressing for any emergency care. And what we address? A simple few words, and everything goes so well. And when we talk about in disaster management, we know that most of us, when we all have done the mass casualty management, few of us have been at the field during the disaster. The first responder, as sir had said, like, how a first aid is important when we help them to save a life. But when the psychological first aid is given, this is also one way of saving the life and promoting early recovery. Second one example, I'll give you another about because the participants will more understand with the examples what exactly it is impacting. I was having a phone call at the midnight 2 a.m. with one of my patients who had been to the native place. She was being trained by me in the first aid also. And then she was not remembering what I should do in this situation. She called me up, ma'am, what should I do it? And I just simply said, मैंने आपको वो सिखाया था ना. Just simple. I did not knew what she had remembered or not remembered. But one moment I said, मैंने आपको सिखाया था ना. I said, okay, ma'am, I remember now. Just simple word of psychological support. कि मैंने आपको सिखाया था, you remember it very well. And that psychological affair made a difference. In the morning, she told me what had exactly happened. Her father-in-law had a heart attack. He was saying what to do, and she knew that मुझे आता है, but that loss of confidence. And moment somebody said, like, you know it, you have been taught and you know it. This is simple psychological support. In day-to-day, where we use this psychological support. Anybody is going for exam or anybody is going for interview. A simple word we say, don't worry, sab theek ho jayega. All the best. So I gave you the broader aspect of psychological support, which we are doing it day and night by anybody, by friends, family members, relatives, neighbors, and how it is important. So simple word of calmness. I am there with you. Don't worry. I know how to help you in the initial stage. And then looking at the type of injury, looking at the type of loss, further assurance. I can take you to the hospital. I know somebody else said their similar thing had happened. Many times we go into the hospital. And then while we were in the initial stage, it was so important, relative visiting and giving a positive information. अरे उसको भी ऐसा हो गया था and that person got very well. Don't worry, this doctor is very good. If the doctor is bad, everything is bad. Still you say the doctor is very good, hospital is very good, your disease is, though it will be more fatal, but somebody says, no, it is going to be fine with you. Don't worry. I know somebody from similar disease and that person got well. And that gives assurance and psychological support to the patient. It helps in the recovery. It helps in building the immunity. These are the simple way of, and now we have more, we were doing the psychological first aid since ages together by the nearby ones. But now we term it more as a psychological first aid. And of course, the certain tools are being used for the psychological first aid are helping in the recovery, are ensuring the patient doesn't go into the depression or into the other mental health issue. So this psychological impact is so important. And we need more trained people in psychological first aid. Of course, all our near dear ones are doing psychological first aid time to time. Kuch gir gaya, tension aa gaya, lag gaya, tension. Chota bacha gir gaya. We always say, don't worry. You're a brave boy. You're brave, you don't cry. And that boy stops crying. He starts laughing. A very simple thing we are doing day and night. So when we say go to psychological, we Indians suddenly take it back. Oh God, psychology, mental health issue. No, it is not a mental health issue. It's a day-to-day need to do that. I hope that makes everybody to understand the importance of, if you remove the psychological first aid, but we say that we are trying to calm down the person, we are trying to support to the person, we are trying to give the confidence to the person, and we are trying to say nothing will be bad with you, we are there with you. And these simple words make such a huge difference. And let's accept that a professional help in psychological first aid, they are trained how to do it more better way. Initial stage and then later on stage, like we say about platinum 10 minutes in first hour and golden hour. This is similar type of concept is in psychological first aid also. I hope it helps to understand the participants' importance of psychological first aid.
Thank you, Dr. Rita. I'm audible?
Yes.
Thank you very much. I know how important is psychological first aid. We stay in I've been doing this first aid training for the last 14-15 years, and staying in most of the conflict areas where we see all the bullet injuries and lost it. So I know the importance of the psychological, how it helps the patient, how many patients have been saved by saying his psychological things. Thank you very much, Dr. Rita. Now come to Mr. Dr. Sharma ji, who's a very experienced first aid trainer, examiner, and a master trainer at National Headquarters. And my colleague, we have been working together for long.
Sir, sorry to interrupt, but Sharma sir is facing some difficulty to join. I'm just touch basing with him. We can proceed.
Okay. Can you proceed with the Dr. Rashmi? Dr. Rashmi is online?
Yeah, she's there.
Hi, Dr. Rashmi.
Hi, sir. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Am I audible?
Yes. Yeah, audible. Thank you very much. And I know Dr. Rashmi, she is one of famous master trainer at Delhi headquarters, and we is doing training in other parts of India also. Been master trainer for so many years. Can you highlight some tricks through video of CPR, choking, bleeding, fractures of tick? You have been given 15 minutes to do this thing. Practicals of first aid tips and tricks above via video or something on CPR, choking, bleeding, and fractures and burns. So can give you 15 minutes in this thing?
Okay, sir. First of all, thank you everybody for giving me this privilege. I discuss everything through my PPT, and then I can explain the things better. So let me give some time. I can share the screen. Next. Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am. You can just make it full screen.
Basically, the first aid is the first help that we can provide the patient. Like the ma'am says, we are the first responder. Whether the accident took place on the road or anywhere else, we are the first responder to help them out. Firstly, we are discussing about the life-saving technique, that is CPR. The process.
Can you
Hello.
just
Yeah.
put the screen mode, please.
Okay. Screen mode. Okay. This is not in screen mode.
No, it is not on the PPT mode. Control plus F5 or on the top left. You can see now from beginning option is there. Top left corner from beginning. Click there.
Yeah. You are not able to see my screen.
You're not able to see your screen. You can just try to close it and restart the sharing.
Just wait for 1 minute. Start connection.
And in the meantime, I'd like to just give a quick instruction to all the participants that we are having it in the webinar mode. So all the participants who would like to post any questions, there's a Q&A box below. You can just write down your queries in the Q&A box, and we'll be posting these questions to the respective panelists at the end of this session. And if you would like to speak up and share your things, you can just raise up your hand, and that also we will give you the rights to speak at the end of the training. So yeah, that's it. Thank you so much.
My screen is visible now.
It is visible. Can you just put it on the full screen mode on the
Full
top
screen.
left? Top left.
Yeah.
From beginning. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's done.
Isn't as of now. Well, you can just go ahead, ma'am. It's fine. You can just.
Okay, so we are discussing we are the first responder, basically, or we are discussing about the CPR. That is a life-saving technique. During the CPR, we have to simply adopt the formula, that is DRS ABC. In D, we have to remove the danger from the patient. R, check the response either by tapping the shoulders, then ask for somebody for helping the patient, then check the airway by chin lift and uplift the chin, then check for the breathing. We have to keep our face, keep our ears around the patient nose and check the breathing for 15 minutes. Okay. I should have proved. Oh God, what happened? Serious. Sorry for the interruption. We have to check for the breathing. Like if breathing is there, then we should go for the patient in recovery position. And if the breathing is not there, we should perform the CPR. You have a control. Yeah. We should open this airway like this. This is the casualty assessment, and now go for the CPR. Siju, you are holding my screen.
Yes, ma'am. I'm just going from the top.
Okay, just I am discussing because I suppose it's wastage of time. Now I have to repeat everything off and on. Just stick to this place. Let me control my screen. That will be comfortable for me. Hello?
Please go ahead, ma'am. Please go ahead.
Okay. Remove the danger, check for the response, call somebody for the help, and then open the airway, check for breathing. Breathing should be checked to keep the hand on the patient abdomen and keep your face near to the patient nose, and just look for whether the chest is moving up and down. There is a warm air from the nose, and somebody is feeling. This is the regular way of assessment of the breathing. If the breathing is there, just assess the patient thoroughly and lie down him in the recovery position, either to left or to right. And if there is no breathing, go for CPR. For CPR, we have to just sit around the patient, keep our hands, both hands locked, working hand down, and keep the hand up. And then keep pressing the center of the chest, keeping your elbow straight, back part straight. My upper body portion is around 90 degrees to the patient chest, and keep on pressing with the speed of 100 to 120 per minute. That is, in 1 second, you have to press the chest for twice. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Am
Very
I?
much.
Okay, but you are controlling my screen. I can't move my screen. Okay.
No, I'm not doing anything, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you so much. Now, this is the recovery position. And now, if there is no breathing, we should perform for the CPR that I am discussing. CPR should be performed when there is no breathing. Yeah. These are the simple process we have to follow. Recently, we have to just press the chest 100 to 120 times, keeping our body in the 90 degree position up till the body, and keep on observing the patient's breathing. If the breathing is there, stop the CPR. If the doctors arrive, stop the CPR. If you get exhausted, then stop the CPR. And if the situation is dangerous, then also you should stop the CPR. So according to first aid, we should keep the things in mind for the CPR. Give the CPR to that patient who don't have any breath. Basically, it's to reduce the brain damage. CPR, the simple process is to press the chest and let the chest recoil. That is a simple process. It's press hard and fast. In 1 minute, you should press the chest 100 to 120 times. And the last, when to stop the CPR, the moment patient revives, stop the CPR. Basically, this is a life-saving technique. And I suppose everybody should know this process, this simple technique, so that we can save 100 of lives. That's the CPR.
मैम आपका screen move नहीं हो रहा, ma'am. It's still in the recovery position.
हाँ, this is the. अभी हो रहा है?
नहीं, ma'am.
अभी भी नहीं हो रहा?
No, it's still showing the recovery position only.
Okay, sorry.
Close करके एक बार start करने की कोशिश कर लो, ma'am.
Close करके CPR just. अभी हुआ क्या?
Now it has been stopped. आप एक बार reshare कर लो, ma'am.
Is it visible?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
Yeah, basically this is the thing. How should we perform the CPR? Help. It's very difficult. So basically, this is the process we should use for this to perform the CPR. Chest compression. The way we should keep our hand like this on the chest. That is more important, and our position should be, this is with 2 hands we should perform the CPR on the adults. With single hand, we should perform the CPR on infants, and with 2 fingers, we can perform the CPR on kids or infants. That is more important. I think next should be bleeding. This is the way how we should perform on the infant. Is it clear? Yeah. Next topic is choking. When we keep on talking by having our food, sometimes the food gets stuck in the airway. That time the patient can't speak. The patient can't cough. And it's like holding the hand like this. Then we have to simply perform a simple thing. Just go to the back of the patient, hold the patient in the position, and then give the back slaps. Like in the picture you are seeing, like back slaps we are giving, and 5 times we are giving the abdominal thrust. Just make a J shape and make a fist and J shape and encourage the patient to cough. The moment patient coughs, the obstructed particle will come out. If it comes out, the patient will be relieved. But if that obstructed object doesn't clear the airway, the patient will fall down. And if he or she fell down, we have to check for the breathing and then start for CPR. And this is the most critical conditions in, like when you visited some Domino's or pizzas or having anything, these conditions you can observe in the restaurant areas. And even at your home also, you can observe this condition. And this will, in case of infants choking, when the child stuck something in the airway, then you have to keep the patient like in the lap and give the 5 blows. If the product come out, the obstruction area is clear, then it's done. But if it remains, the infant start getting the bluish symptom on the skin, on the nails, on the lips, then check for the breathing. While doing the CPR, just rush to the hospital. Am I audible and clear now?
Yes, ma'am. Please go ahead.
Okay. Now one of the main cause of death in accidents is bleeding. It's whether lacerations, cuts, abrasions, or amputation. Bleeding, when something hits the body, it's called bleeding. It may be internal, it may be external. Internal bleeding we can't identify. We have to just see for the patient body language. Just see the cause of the accident, whether it's a road accident, somebody hits with a heavy rod on the head. It's like a trauma. Then you have to rush immediately to the trauma center. And when the bleeding is external, we need to stop the bleeding by giving direct pressure. Just for your safety, you should wear the gloves. If the gloves are not available, you should wear a polythene or have some cotton pad or cotton cloth. Just make a pad of that cotton cloth and keep that pad on the patient's wound area. And if the limbs are there, you should elevate that part, give the psychological support to the patient, and take him to the nearby hospital. In worst cases, we should apply a tourniquet. If there is an amputation, then we should need to apply the tourniquets. Tourniquet, a tight bandage around that wound, just to stop the bleeding. And in the picture where you are saying something is inserted in the body, in this case, we have to just make a ring pad around that inserted object, tie with the bandage, and take the patient to the hospital. And if the patient is conscious, give the psychological support. If the patient is unconscious, just lie down in the recovery position. And if keep on checking for the breathing, सांसें check करनी है. Or if the breathing is not there, then start for the CPR. In amputation, just see in the picture we are applying the tourniquet. Tourniquet is applicable only where there are wounds, where there is an amputation, and that is a tight bandage we should apply on the limbs only. That should also stop the bleeding. and then take the patient to a hospital where the OT facilities available. We should keep this amputated part in a polythene in a bag and keep that part somewhat little bit cold so that the decomposition will not start. And along with the patient, take this amputated part, and this will reduce the possibility of him being for the artificial limb. Yeah, these are the cases. Next are the fractures. Fracture is somewhat like when the hard object or anything, we got a slip, we got a fracture, but fracture can't be identified on the spot sometimes. But when there are hairline fracture, we can't identify the insurance whether it's a fracture, it's sprain, or it's a ligament broken. The only thing is, if there is a fracture or there is a suspicion of fracture, we should just immobilize the body part. That's the simple feature. Immobilize the body part with a splint and bandage, and take the patient while giving the reinsurance to the nearby hospital or some ortho. Like the picture, in this case, this is an open fracture. In this case, the patient is little bit worried about the fracture, the blood is pouring out. So we have to reinsure the patient and also give the support to this open wound by giving the ring pad. The ring pad will support the bone which is coming out and then also stops the bleeding. Basically, the treatment in only fracture is just to immobilize the body part. If the limbs are there, we can use the splints, we can use the slings. The only fact is the doctor will decide, the X-ray technician will decide whether it's a fracture, it's sprain, strain, or the ligament broken is there. Like this, we can give the support. If these hard structures are not available, just tie the upper limb with the side of the body. And if it's in a lower part, just tie one leg with the other leg. First tie the feet, then tie the upper portion. We can use the belts, the dupatta part. That is the only alternative we can use, tying the patient. Just keep one thing in mind. When you are tying one leg with the other, keep pads in between, number one. Don't make a knots on the portion which has a swelling part. That is more important. And again, the patient, you have to give the psychological first aid because the patient is in pain. If he is conscious, he has a lot of pain. So you have to reassure the patient that ठीक हो जाएगा, आप ठीक हो जाओगे, हम डॉक्टर पे जा रहे हैं. So that is more important. Like we can use the splint also, hard object. This is some simple techniques how we can shift the patient. Like we can hold the patient in the lap. It's a fireman. Like making a seat with the wrist. But the best thing is we can take the help of the 4 or 5 people and then take the patient to the nearby ambulance or to nearby hospital. The basic thing is in fractures, we don't make a panic to the patient ki haddi toot gayi hai, because even we are not 100% sure ki haddi tooti hai. Just reconsole him, reinsure him, immobilize that body part and take the patient to the hospital. Spinal fractures are very, very, very important. In that case, you can feel the secondary injuries also. So it's very important to lift the patient. That should be in a hard stature, in a straight form, and just hold the neck. Don't allow the neck to move here and there, up and low. That is more important, which we are facing when the volunteers are doing the कर तो वो सेवा रहे हैं, but कई बार lifting में ही they can cause the secondary injuries. The next part is bones. When the skin is involved, it's a superficial. When we get in touch with some heated object or something very hot falls on the body part, that is burns. It's 1
Dr.
degree.
Rashmi,
Yes,
sorry to
sir.
interrupt. थोड़ा सा आपका टाइम जा रहा है. Within 1-2 minutes में आप wind up
हाँ,
कीजिए. You have to
हाँ
take
जी,
answers.
ठीक है sir. 1 degree, 2 degree, and 3 degree. Just simple thing we have to do in case of burns. We have to just 1 degree and 2 degree. We have to just keep that body part under a water for 15 to 20 minutes. Then cover that body part with a cotton cloth. Just cover it. Don't tie it. Cover that body part and reinsure the patient and take him to the hospital. And if it's 3rd degree burn, don't pour the water. Just cover the things and cover that body part and take the patient to the hospital. That's all from my side. If anybody has the question, I feel really privileged to answer that. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rashmi. Thank you very much. Question answers we'll do at the end of the sessions. Thank you for elaborating all the session with a very short time. I know first aid is a very big session. It takes
Yes,
about
sir.
3 days to do it. You just done briefly explained it within 15 minutes. Sorry, I had to stop you because the other session panel has to say also. Dr. R.K. Sharma has joined.
No, sir. He
No, sir.
actually takes. I just spoke with him. He is traveling down to Faridabad and is in a very low range area.
Okay.
That's
okay.
why.
So can we shift to Mrs. Kavita Sharma ji? Hello, Mr. Kavita Sharma ji. She's there?
Yes, sir. Very much.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. It's privileged. You are in this session very senior most. You have been working for so long time from the first aid. So, ma'am, can you explain us how can we empower women and caregiver in the safety awareness and first aid skills?
Yes. First of all, good evening to you all. It is nice to be in this webinar where we are able to perhaps be able to address people who have little or no knowledge of first aid. During the pandemic, when there was very little opportunity to do real-time demos, this was the only records that we had. And I'm happy to say that the response that we got for trainings during this period was much more than there was during the regular time before the pandemic, because people had time and they were able to devote more time to this important issue. Now, I think Admiral Sharma, our president, has already spoken to you about the Rashtriya Life Saving Society and how it came about. We are trying to reach out to as many people as possible throughout our vast country and from every walk of life. To my mind, every person from the age of 4 years to 84 or more, if he is mobile, should be safe. And you can only be safe if you are taught safety consciousness. A 4-year-old kid playing in the kitchen must know what is safe and what is unsafe. As well as a child going by the water must know. So many accidents we come across because there is a lack of safety consciousness. Another thing to my mind is that teaching the skills of first aid is very easy. If anybody has got 12 to 15 hours, in that we can teach almost 30 emergencies, which can occur either at home or in transit or at the workplace. But what is more difficult is to create safety consciousness in the minds of the people. That is our biggest challenge that we have found in the last 24 years. People like to see the demonstrations at that time. They are appreciative and they say, yes, we would like to take part in this training. It is so important. And yet, the moment they move on, they get busy with other things and they feel that, and accident won't happen to them. So they do not prepare themselves when they're going out into danger. Kids have to go into danger. That's part of growing up. The youth have to go for trekking. They have to go out swimming. They have to go sailing. But they must know that they're going into danger. So I think in our country, there is a greater need today to make the different categories of people conscious of the dangers around them. And it is for this reason that in RLSS, we have broken the first aid protocols into different requirements of different environments. Like we have a program for home safety, especially with infant CPR for young mothers and for caregivers. We have programs for the marginalized communities where the education levels are very low and it has to be mostly practical. Like we do a lot of programs for industrial workers and women working at building sites. Now they are the ones and their children who are facing danger all the time. And there is very little consciousness on how to keep them safe. We have a few partner NGOs who we are working as a group together where we go to these building sites. And I'm afraid this webinar came up all of a sudden, so I was not able to put out some of the videos that we have on this, but maybe some other time I'll get an opportunity to show you how these people are appreciated. And it is these people, the rural people, who do not have access to formal medical aid. So for them, it is that much more important that they be empowered with these skills. I mean, a simple thing like telling a mother, do you know your kitchen is the most dangerous place in your house? We all take our kitchens for granted. Today's webinar, we've got mostly women who are addressing this problem. And I know as a housewife, as a mother, how often I have got comments. I have worn a synthetic dupatta and gone into the kitchen to make a cup of tea. I remember some years ago, we'd done a program for one of the leading schools in Pune. And the director's daughter was in that class. So at the end of the class, when she went home, she took a piece of paper and put all the do's and don'ts that I had talked about on kitchen safety. And she stuck it onto the fridge. And she said, Mom, you have to follow these instructions. To the extent that a week later, when I went with the certificates to the school, the mother said, you know, Mrs. Sharma, you made my life absolutely miserable. I can't move in the house because she's watching over me all the time. I was so happy to know that I had been able to reach out to that child. So children need to be told what is safe and what is unsafe. And of course, if there is an accident or a trauma, then what to do to stabilize the victim in the first 15 minutes so that she has a better chance to reach formal medical facilities. So this is how we in Rashtriya Life Saving, besides first aid, we are doing a lot of work on water safety, right from teaching children to swim with survival skills. So it is not just that they are going from one end of the pool to the other, but they are taught how to survive in case they have an accidental fall into deep water. And then as they grow a little older, we teach them to be lifesavers. Under 16 years, they are rookie lifesavers in that they know how to rescue somebody without touching the victim. Because as you know, a drowning victim can be very dangerous. and he or she will just climb over the rescuer to get the next breath. So these children who either live by the water, like in Kerala, we've done a lot of these programs in most of the coastal states, as a matter of fact, and in many swimming pools. They are taught how to rescue without touching. So there are non-contact, there are reach rescues. Those are the kind of things we teach them. And then once they turn 16, then they are put through the lifeguard course, where they are taught to be lifeguards. And this is a very attractive program, especially for the underprivileged children, because they are able to get jobs and livelihoods at swimming pools, in the fitness industry, and they go on to be coaches and managers. And I think we have trained over, almost 5 lakh people in these kids. So
Ma'am.
these are the, sorry, yes.
Sir, this 1 minute more, ma'am. We have to conclude one session in 5 minutes. I'm really
Okay.
sorry for that.
Okay, well, I'm more or less finished. This is what I'm saying, that our programs are designed for a specific audience. If it is a workplace, then if it's a chemical industry, the workers are from the chemical industries, then it must be designed to the dangers that they face in their industry. So that is one of the major focuses that we have. Schools, colleges, of course, have their own kind of programs. And we have a lot of events and promotions. We have a Lifesaver of the Year award that is given. We, being a part of the international organization, the Royal Life Saving Society, the kids get an opportunity to interact with people. As a matter of fact, there is a team going to Italy for the World Life Saving Sports. This is another very interesting activity. The International Life Saving Federation has designed a life-saving sport, which is based, every event is based on a life-saving protocol. So instead of just swimming from one end of the pool to the other, or in the river or the beach, they have to tow a mannequin which is weighed to 80 kgs. And there is a technique with which the nose should be up, etc., etc. And this is basically to encourage the youth to take to life saving. Because if you ask them to come and sit in a classroom, they'll be bored. Whereas with this game, they have to be lifesavers. So they learn life-saving techniques. So this is what my talk is all about, that we need to make the programs specific to the audiences and to make it interesting enough to raise that awareness that yes, this can happen to me. So I have to pay attention on that. That's all I have to say. If there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much. You briefly explained about your work from such a long time you have been working, and it's so privileged you have been trained more than 5 lakh people in all parts of India in swimming and in the first aid. I thank you. Sir, ma'am, sir is there. Can I ask a second question
Yes.
to the sir?
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
there. He's there.
Yes, sir. Sir,
Yeah, boliye.
sir, we are starting a second round of questions from you. So can you enlighten how can we include this important education in our academic curriculum of the schools and college in our country? Can you enlighten these things? How can we? And this is a very important thing. We need to put academic schools and colleges so that every children should start learning from their childhood what is important of the first aid. Can you enlighten this thing? How can we do?
One of the methods that I use generally is try and particularly the institution where young kids are studying. We have authored a book. It's a junior first aid book. It's written in excellent English, and it has got many, many pictures, and it talks about the various protocols of first aid and a need for safety consciousness, etc. It's something that every person should know. And if the kid begins to read this book right in the beginning as part of a second reader in English and whatever in schools have prescribed, two things happen. One, he reads good English. Two, he learns first aid through his reading English book. So that's one way I do it. Otherwise, what you're doing is exactly what we promote. Have webinars, have demonstrations. I've had thousands of demonstrations. And I've addressed people, 300, sometimes 500 people in schools and colleges. But somehow or the other, from a demonstration to actually volunteering to learn first aid is a difficult sort of a conversion. And therefore, the question of writing this book for juniors came to my mind. And it is popular. The only thing is this establishment, rather the schools have to accept it and put it out as a second reader. And it's very informative, and it is what every child should know. And once he learns the basics at this age, let me tell you one thing, he'll keep it with him throughout his life. And therefore will be a part of the life-saving movement that we keep talking about. One or two things I would say, Madam Malhotra gave a very good program on various protocols of first aid. And I really appreciated the videos that she has produced. In fact, I would love to have those videos so that, you can promote them among people more and more on the crowd. One or two things I would like to observe, like, for instance, CPR. CPR, when you give them, the thing is, the main reason why you give CPR is to ensure that your brain keeps getting some oxygen. And therefore, once the person has stopped breathing, then what you're doing by compressions is an artificial breathing, because the air comes out and it comes in, etc., etc. Perhaps along with that, you supplement by giving rescue breaths. So the usual across the globe, the protocol for CPR is 30 compressions on the sternum between the nipples, about 1.5 to 2 inches, and 2 rescue breaths. That is about 500 ml every time you put in the person and watch it when you check that the breath has gone into the bit. This is the only difference I thought we should implement in what Dr. Malhotra has given, because to give 120 compression, the guy will go berserk and it wouldn't be possible. So just divide it into 32, 32, 32. It's so much easier and countable, because 100 count karoge, the beach mein bhool jaoge bahut kuch. So that's one aspect. The other thing that you asked me, that how did you promote? Talk about it. Let me tell you one thing. I show you this. This is, I don't know whether you can see the writing on it. It's the back of my visiting card. I must have given thousands of these cards. Yeah. And nobody throws these cards because they talk about the CPR protocol, which is the currently used across the globe and sponsored by the International Life Saving Federation. And since I am a full member of the organization, I get the inputs because they carry on doing research. Since the time I started first aid training, that was about 24 years ago, the CPR protocol has undergone changes 4 times. That means something live is happening. People are actually figuring out that early on it used to be CAR first, then CPR, and then it was one for the boys. Now it's all standardized. It's the same protocol to be given to a child, an infant, and an adult. Only thing is the manner differs. In the case of an adult, you use both hands. In case of a child, you use one hand. And in case of an infant, you use 2 fingers on the sternum and press for about ½ an inch. For the child, you press about 1 to 1.5 inch. And for the adults, it's 1.5 to 2 inch. And the breath that you give is 500 ml for the adult, 250 ml for the child, and a gentle puff for the infant. Don't force any air there because the lungs are very, very weak and fragile. So keep it very simple. Then I wanted to talk to you about so many other things, because like you said, first aid is a very vast subject. I don't know I have the time to continue, or you want to put somebody else on the line?
It's a 5 minutes time to given to everybody for to discuss. I know this is not a first aid training. First aid is a very huge topic and it takes a lot of time to explain. Just awareness about the first aid. We are given every panelist 5 minutes for one question and 5 minutes for other questions, sir.
Okay, and the other thing that my wife told me that you had briefed her, there are a couple of questions that you want to ask. One of the questions which I have not dealt with is as to, from the Navy into life-saving. What made you do it? Well, let me give you a little story in this. On the 19th November 1997, a bus at 9 o'clock in the morning, full of children, 75 against the capacity of 50, jumped the rails on Wazirabad Bridge and fell in the river down below. Fortunately, coming to a standstill on a sandbank with water up to the windows. Those who knew how to swim swam ashore because the sandbank was just about 25 to 30 feet away from the shoreline. And those who were under shock just remained in the bus. And when the water level started rising, they kept putting their head further up. They were safe. But there were diehards who thought that you could swim but didn't know how to swim, followed those who had swam and suffered immersion. It was brief because there were boys, there were some fishermen about. They quickly picked up those kids and put them on the bank. And that's where they died, because they wanted somebody to give them CPR. It didn't happen because nobody knew what to do. Somehow or the other, when I got to know of it, and I said, well, I've just taken premature retirement. I need to do something. Let's start teaching people CPR. And believe me, today, I feel so happy that I've reached a figure of 1 million. And 500,000, those people who know how to give first aid and deal with a person in trouble in water. So that's what one has done, and that is what one satisfies one. Aanke kuch karna hai. I'm a veteran of 65 war and 71 war. I used to teach people how to kill straight and count for every, 10 people shot with one bullet. There's 180, then a U-turn. And now I teach people how to save lives. It's a lovely exercise. And the thing I want people to know around, if people are listening, is the fact that once you save a life, you are never the same. Because at least for a week, your feet do not touch the ground, because that good feeling, it's tremendous feeling when you are, ultimately, you all know that saving a life or otherwise is not your job, it's an act of God. But you are a conduit. Somehow or the other, you have been part of the system or part of the path of a life being saved. And that itself is good enough, and that itself is satisfying. So my answer to your question is, I think I didn't choose life-saving. Life-saving chose me. And therefore, I'm here after 24 years, still doing same thing, working almost 12 to 13 hours or 14 hours a day, concentrating and getting more and more people involved in the life-saving movement.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir, for a wonderful, you have been done so good for so long time. I just need to add to, sir, that what in the Red Cross, a recent 220 guideline, according to the Indian Federation of Red Cross Crescent, is that if you can't do mouth to mouth, you can do a compression of 100 to 120. This is the recent guideline we have been come from International Federation for Red Cross Crescent, what we follow. Reason behind was, if the patient can't give a mouth to mouth, was because 80% of the people doesn't hesitate to give mouth to mouth during the time of real accident. I've been staying in a conflict area. I have been doing the CPR in life and this. So in Red Cross, we don't say don't do mouth to 30:2 is the standard. What we did, the recent guideline in 220 has come that if they can't do this mouth to mouth, start a compression of 100 to 120 per minute at this speed. This is the recent one. Second thing, in the Red Cross,
Can
we follow.
can I answer your first observation?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, sir.
120 heart foundation. Usually, you're talking about a person who's had a heart attack, and he is on
Right.
land. His blood is rich in oxygen at that particular point of time. After you've given him 120, maybe once or twice, after that, if you do not supplement air through EAR, expired air resuscitation, you're not doing very much, because the blood that is there in the system doesn't have as much oxygen as you want.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree with you, sir. I know this thing, but
Now,
why
Can I continue? I haven't
Yes,
finished.
sir, sir.
The other thing is, I'm dealing with people in the water. They have just
Right, sir.
suffered immersion. They are already down as far as the oxygen is concerned. I need to give them oxygen through EAR as quickly as possible. And therefore, I start not with the compression. I give him EAR first and then start my compression. Because let some oxygen be in the system before I start spreading it in the body. So those are the various issues. The fact of the matter is, there are a lot of people doing a lot of research in the subsystem. You have your own experience in the matter. What appeals to you most? What appeals to you most at that particular point of time? Please go ahead and do. And whatever is possible, try and save a life.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. Can I ask Dr. Rita Salve to answer my second questions about this thing? Dr. Rita Salve, are you audible?
Yeah, I'm here. Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
I think, sir, before Dr. Rita, I think we can pose the second question to Dr. Rashmi.
Dr. Rashmi, are you audible? Hello, Dr. Rashmi?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Can you answer this? What are the Dr. Sharma is not there? I think she has some network issue, or he may be traveling somewhere. Can you answer the question? First question: what are some of the general mistakes people do while performing first aid? Can someone be possible suit for doing the first aid?
Basically, the things I am observing, or the people is saying, that is regarding bleeding. When somebody sees the bleeding, the people start, when the blood is pouring in a large amount, people start pouring the water. That is really a bad thing, because it will create a problem for the platelets to stop the blood. Just we need to keep the pressure, direct bandage, direct pressure, and stop the bleed. That is the one major part. We keep on observing the people start pouring water or some antibiotic or some antiseptic on that. Second, the people are not aware about the recovery position. That is a very important thing, because when the patient is unconscious, even the God has gifted this thing, we sleep in either to left side or right side. The basic reason is why we sleep like in the recovery position, just the saliva that will automatically come out of the mouth, or it will be in the food pipe, not in the airway. But on road or any time or in the accidents, the people are not aware about the recovery position. That is very important. The people, because the blood, anything can, even, अब जैसे खून है, एक सिंपल सी बात है, वो कोई भी रोक लेगा. एक रिक्शा वाले को भी पता है कि हम ब्लड रोक सकते हैं, but nobody knows if the patient is unconscious, make the patient in recovery position. So we should emphasize CPR. That is important. Also, when the patient is unconscious, we should make the patient in recovery position. That is very important, either to left side or right side, to avoid the obstruction of the airway. Third, in case we are discussing, the people, they really feel that it's not easy to give mouth-to-mouth breathing. I can understand this, sir, Dr. Sharma, that mouth-to-mouth breathing, that will be easy. But I have seen a lot of people, especially in this COVID times, the people just avoid touching the body of their attendants or anybody. How it is possible they should prefer to go with mouth-to-mouth breathing. That's why IFRC has stopped this process to keep go for mouth to mouth breathing. They just prefer if we should go for just compressions. And the one of the most important, which we are observing in our kitchens also, during the burns, the people used to apply a toothpaste or some coconut oil. That we should stop. We should not apply anything. Just pour the water or keep that hand under the water and cover that part, preferably with the cotton cloth or with the clean polythene or with the cling film, and take the patient to the hospital while giving the reinsurance. That is some of the common things. And one of the common myth, it's not a thing, common myth regarding a snake poison. That is, just check whether the snake is poisonous or not. That is a very stupid thing which are usually I observe in my students, which belong to the especially rural areas. So in case that's the reinsurance, that is very, very important in that snake bite. Firstly, reinsure कि तुम्हें कुछ नहीं होगा. That is very important as a first responder, and take the patient to a hospital. और एक वो जो मिर्गी epilepsy में, the people used to give the shoes or that rotten socks or to smell that patient. That is really a stupid thing. We are surviving in this 5G network area, and we are doing these stupid, useless things. So in youth, we should give the message, you should avoid these stupid things. That is very important. That's it on my part, which I have observed. I'm not prepared for everything, but I just conclude the things which I have usually observed in my student questionnaire. That is important. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Rashmi. Thank you very much
Mr. Singh, can I
for a
join in?
quick session instead of.
Mr. Singh, can I just add on to something that Dr. Malhotra spoke?
So, ma'am,
Yeah.
for short time, we need
Yeah.
to conclude.
No,
I think
there's
4:30,
just one other point which I think is very, very important if we want to have volunteers who can help people, and that is to take away the fear of the police. The knowledge that there is a law passed by the Supreme Court, which states that if a volunteer helps a victim and the victim does not survive, he is not to be held responsible and he is not to be harassed. This is one piece of knowledge which needs to go out by people like us who are promoting first aid amongst the public. This is the first point that we have to bring about to them, because they are scared and they'll collect if there's an accident, but nobody wants to touch the victim. So I would appeal to you all to look at this important point.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much. Thank you, ma'am. Now, Dr. Rita Salve, are you there? Dr. Rita? Hello?
Yeah, I'm there.
Okay, thank you. Can you enlighten this question? What are the importance and benefit of learning first aid in all phases of life? Just a short time, 5 minutes.
Yeah.
We have to conclude the session. I think we are already 5-10 minutes. It's closing time. So can you within 5 minutes you could do it.
Sure. Thank you for giving me this very important topic. I was just to share why I'm doing my first aid training program or CPR training program, and why I'm promoting the advocacy about the importance of first aid. In 2001, I had a two experience. I was a doctor to help lots of people during the Kutch earthquake, where a wrong first aid given to one of a small 9-month child, where the only suture was a solution, but the wrong first aid had made her to completely amputate both the legs above knee joint. So it is very important that learning the first aid is important, which saves the life, prevents the disability, prevents the complications, and promotes early recovery. But remember, it has to be first right help. A knowledge of how to give first aid is very important. If a wrongly given first aid, if the quote is those saving the people of good, if they're because of the wrong help, if the person is dying, so let it be forgiven to those people because they were kind-hearted people. But that does not mean that if you are not knowledgeable, if you don't have confidence how to give a first aid or give help to the patient, one should not touch the patient and call the ambulance where they're well trained how to handle such type of emergency. So the importance is not saving yourself from the complication of legal complication, but the importance is saving somebody's life. And mind well, when we are learning first aid, research says 90% of first aid is been done for the near and dear ones. Only in 10% we give it to the stranger like a road accident. And the time is so important in first aid training. If you have somebody's bleeding, and if you remember after half an hour to give first aid, probably we have already lost the time of saving. If somebody has a heart attack, and if we give the time after the important 4 minutes and the right technique, we probably lost a person. Equipments, if there is any accident, if we are not supporting the fracture, first a cervical collar, assessment of the patient, probably we are complicating the thing. So it is important to learn first aid from the right people who have knowledge, field experience, not the theoretical experience, because theory can give you the knowledge. After 5.5 years of learning in medical college, we have been asked to attend CME programs and we have a point to re-registration. Unless then we don't have the license to practice as a doctor. But if we are giving same knowledge in 2 days or 3 days, we also need to say that we have been trying to give more practical. So you have a confidence and don't do any mistakes. Theory have been always forgotten, but the practice helps you to remember the thing. So it is important, a doctor who trains you very well. It is hand-on practice, not online lectures or not just for the sake of certificate. Lots of people are doing 2 hours or 3 hours of training program where they touch various topics. Like today, Dr. Rashmi, she has a 15 minutes to talk on first aid. And then we have given her 6 topics. And I'm sure she could not justify any topic. So similar way, this is the best example. In 15 minutes or 2 hours, you can just give the lectures. But hands-on practice, which helps you the confidence, which ensures that you don't do the mistake, you save the life. And 90% time you're giving to your near and dear ones. You are not giving to the road accident every time. But there is, as ma'am have said, Kavita ma'am has said, like in the kitchen, something happens. You should know how to give first aid, right first aid. So the importance of time, the training from whom? Have you trained with the practice or you have been trained with theory? Theory will give you confidence to actually act on the time? No. So let's ensure that we don't go for a shortcut because we are talking about saving your near and dear ones. The benefit of first aid, what I'm supposed to talk. It saves the life. It is not to save your ego that I have helped and then if I have killed somebody, I'm being protected by law. Absolutely not. Internationally, if you have been doing a wrong first aid without equipments, without knowledge, without your refresher courses, certificates, you have been sued for killing the person. So let's ensure that you should know what you have to do and how you have to help. A right knowledge will save the life and wrong knowledge. I started with the example of that small, cute girl. Trust me, she's so beautiful, so beautiful. But she's a disabled girl. And who made her disabled? Or some kind-hearted first responder? Can we promote such type of wrong practices when we are talking about saving the life? Promoting early recovery, promoting preventing the disability. When we are promoting early recovery, it has further benefit of reduced financial loss, reduced psychological trauma to the patient, to their family, reducing the burden on healthcare infrastructure. It's so important that after the first aid, patient is supposed to go to the hospital if the patient is complicated. Will it not take longer period in the hospital? Then we are depriving the next patient for the treatment. So it is very important to ensure that we learn the first aid at every age.
Okay.
Time to time refresher course. And we learn from whom? An experienced doctor. Not all the doctors are also can give the first aid, but they have gone to a specific training how to give the first aid training. That is also equally important.
Okay.
So,
ma'am, conclude within 1 minute, please.
Yeah.
We have already.
So I hope I made it very loud and clear to say that importance of first aid is saving the life of the patient, not yourself. And
right.
Everything what we are doing it and learning how it is reducing the example was that somebody is going and because of the right first aid, somebody recovers in 5 days, and with the wrong first aid or no first aid, patient takes 20 days in the hospital. Financial burden, psychological, if person is becoming disabled, psychological impact to the patient and then family, and overall GDP loss to the country. So I request all the participants and panelists, let's promote the concept of right health and early health. This is the reason I have started promoting this in spite of being a doctor. Happily, I was practicing doctor, a roading practice.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, doctor. Thank you very much for your wonderful and briefly explain why it is important to everybody. Just before concluding a session, we can have a question session. But before that, I just want to say short line. Normal days, what we used to teach a classroom session, CPR, this thing. Now, what we teach according to the recent guidelines of, we call it IDBS, in which we introduction, we demonstrate, we practice a lot, and most of the training session, our first aid session are scenario based, where we teach mentally prepare a participant what happened. Normally what used to happen, we used to teach in a classrooms when this first aider used to see a first aid any casualty, they used to get themselves panic in this stage. So now new guideline for first aid is we call it a new methodology first aid, where we mostly depends on all scenario based first aid, where we take a 16 hours scenario based exercise. Thank you all. Thank you, everybody, for
exactly, Dr. Bali, just 1 second. How Dr. Bali said is importance of the hands-on practice and mock practices. If we are not doing, probably we are not giving confidence to participants, and promoting a refresher course is very important. Again, highlighting it. That is what we at Radhi Foundation are doing it when we are taking the lectures on first aid, training on first aid and CPR. We ensure that participants goes out with the confidence to help a person. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Director. Thank you. Mr. Joe, hello.
Yes, sir.
So can we have a questionnaire, questions, answers by anybody who can answer? All the panels are there.
We did had a couple of one in the chat itself, so I'll just take it up. I think a few were already taken up by Rita ma'am. The rest I'll just take one and probably give an opportunity to one of the participants to speak. Shri Bhagwan is already there, who has raised the hand. So I just request Shri Bhagwan if you would like to post any question right now to any of the speakers.
Thank you.
Can you just introduce yourself first and then share the question, please?
Yes, I am Shri Bhagwan.
Your voice is very feeble. If you could just speak a little louder.
I am Shri Bhagwan. Can you hear me?
Not so clear, sir.
Yeah, I am Shri Bhagwan Roy.
Can you keep the mic near your face or somewhere? Your voice is very feeble.
Yes, yes, it is close to my face now. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, I am a teacher trainer in the field of sustainable development. Recently, we have started on the climate resilient disaster management. And this has been a great opportunity for me to listen to all of you. My just one sentence teaching in the classroom or medical practicing in the chamber is much different than managing disaster in the field. So what I wanted to share, let this be a different profession categorically mentioned. It is not the MSc PhD degree. It is more who have intention, urge, and more importantly, a service with the help of crisis management, particularly in the climate change, because the network of climate change itself dignified one. So why not we have a different course of practitioner? Knowing is something else and practicing is something else. Medical treatment in the chamber and the medical chamber treatment in the field for disaster management for road accident is not same. Thank you so much. My appeal to introduce a disaster management course as a training, not just a certificate holder. Thank you so much. I'm touched, overwhelmed, listening to all of you. At the age of 80, I have been practicing in the field also, and I wish I could be of any help to all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for an energetic speech you have told, and very valid what you said. It's not in the classroom. We need to go all to the field. And Annie, thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. Annie, next question, Siju.
I think there is one last one, which is like, is it possible to make a relief team in every state or every district for natural disasters or for any national emergency? So, is there any speaker who would like to take this up?
Yeah, I will take this up. If you can repeat the question, I missed a certain part of this. Yeah, can you repeat the question, please?
Is it possible to make a relief team in every state or every district for natural disasters or for any?
As a matter, can I just come in on this, please?
Yeah, please, sir.
This is
Sure.
Admiral Sharma once again.
Sir, in one line, please.
I'd like to brief you.
In the interest of time.
There is a system for disaster management in the country. Earlier on, it was local people or the army or the navy used to be called in for disasters. Now you have a disaster response force. There is a national disaster response force, which is under the care of the Prime Minister. He has got 16 battalions across the country, based, in the countries very suitably, so that if there is a problem, the nearest one goes and attends to the particular problem. Every state now is beginning to have what we call SDRF, that State Disaster Response Force. Not only that, there are some district magistrates who have started forming their own district response forces. So there's a huge accent and a huge requirement for people who are well up as far as the first aid is concerned, both in land as well as in water, to become volunteers for these disaster response forces. For them to learn these protocols is important. Systems of training in the scenario where disasters can happen, like for instance, flooding is a very often happening, which attacks us all. This is one thing. Fire, something that is happening all the time. These are issues. Earthquakes, that is, whether the gunfire. What do you do? There are certain things which come instinctively with you. The moment you see you hear of a tsunami, please head for the high ground. That's one. When you see flood, please make sure well before that flood is happened, your house is fully loaded with, foodstuffs, etc., etc. Should you get marooned, at least you don't have to leave the house.
In the interest of time,
there are certain protocols on this, on the first aid and disaster mitigation. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm really sorry to interrupt you this time, and I very well understand that zeal in you to share your expertise and knowledge, but I'm so sorry that we are having a limited time, and with that interest, I'll just give one more chance to Rita ma'am, if you would like to make any concluding remarks.
As a Purushottam sir has said, India is now not like you could see in 2001 or before that. Now we have Disaster Management Act in place. All the states have been having a disaster response force and the volunteers are there. And if you as a participant would like to become a volunteer, please connect with me at www.radhi.com, or you can take down my number 9619814411. Because since 2001, I'm working in disaster management. 2006, I have updated Mumbai Disaster Management Plan through the UNDP, which is successfully implemented during the Mumbai disaster, Mumbai serial bomb blast. And those guidelines, from there, I can see a huge change. So systems are in place, but every individual, every family, every organization should be prepared for any medical emergency or disaster emergency. At Radhi Foundation, we are in a process of updating how we can strengthen the citizen through their personal emergency or medical emergency or disaster emergency. So please keep in tune with www.radhi.com. And I'm sure this session has inspired you to go for a first aid for yourself, your family members, your near and dear ones, for your colleges or your children's colleges, or you are as a student. Please connect with us. So we teach you the right technique of giving the first aid, not the theoretical, but the class on-field practice where you have a confidence of saving. As I said, 90% time you give your first aid to your near and dear ones. Maybe your family members, maybe your neighbors, maybe your friends, maybe your colleague. So mind well, first aid is for you and your near and dear one. And 10%, of course, it saves the life of unknown person. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rita ma'am. And it has been a really lovely session. Inderpal sir, sir, would you like to just, as a moderator, conclude this entire discussion?
I can say all to thank you very much. You were very knowledgeable. It's always learning first aid. I've been giving first aid for so many years, but it, like Admiral sir and other sir, it's always a learning to get new things to learn from everybody. It was a good session. I can say only thank you very much for everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I think this is my time to just come up with a couple of things. First of all, I have been really honored to hear from such a senior list of people, and it has been great to have acquired so much knowledge from you people. You are the ones who are working on the ground in this fire, first aid and fire and all the emergency response. Thank you so much for joining us. And I could see some synergies happening, could find out some synergies between the vision Spear India has in their projects. First was the providing basic DM training to each of every corner of the country. We are coming up with, we have already developed a module on basics of disaster management, and we are tying up with multiple universities across the country, and we'll be providing the training on basics of disaster management to those students, and we are providing them as a training for the trainers so that they can further go into the community and to share the knowledge which they have gained through this training to their community members and friends. So that's why how we are envisioning. And if any one of you would like to pitch in as a collaborator or a supporter in any way, if you want to share, join your hands with us, please feel free to connect with us. And with this, I think we can conclude this today's webinar. There have been multiple queries and questions coming one after the other, but due to the interest of time, I'll just wind it up. And for any further clarifications, communication, collaboration, anything, feel free to connect with me at Siljo, CYLJ. I'll just put it in the chat box. You can just note down my email ID there. Yes. So yeah, one and all the participants who have joined us and who have actively taken part in this training, thank you so much. And I know this was not a training as such, this was basically an awareness program to make everyone aware that how important first aid is, and to promote the knowledge and expertise of first aid at all ages of life. With this, thank you to all the panelists for sparing out the time, and hoping to connect with you for the future discussions and collaborations as well. Thank you so much and have a safe evening. We'll connect soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you for such enlightening session. I'm so glad to meet all the participants and panelists also. Thank you, and let's promote the right help and early help concept instead of
Thank
just
you.
can help.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.